What would you do if Kirk Douglas was asked to sing at a Las Vegas nightclub, and instead of performing, he used the microphone to expose an injustice that left the entire room in stunned silence? That's exactly what happened at the Starlight Lounge on November 22nd, 1959. And 40 years later, the pianist at the center of that night revealed why Kirk Douglas's 3 minutes on stage saved his life. It was a Saturday night in Las Vegas. The Starlight Lounge was one of the hottest clubs on the Strip. Not as famous as the big casino showrooms, but classier, more intimate. The kind of place where Hollywood elite came to drink, relax, and escape the cameras. Kirk Douglas was in town for a weekend getaway. No publicity, no premieres. Just a few days of peace before starting his next film. He was sitting at a corner table, nursing a scotch, watching the crowd, when the club's owner spotted him. Vincent Caruso was a small man with big ambitions. He had spent years building the Starlight Lounge into a destination for the rich and famous. And right now, the most famous face in Hollywood was sitting in his club. Caruso approached Kirk's table with the oily confidence of a born salesman. "Mr. Douglas, what an honor. I had no idea you were in town. Please, your drinks are on the house tonight. Anything you need, just ask." Kirk nodded politely. "Thank you. I'm just here to relax." Of course. Caruso lingered. "But if you're feeling generous, the crowd would go absolutely wild if you said a few words. Maybe sang a song? We have a wonderful house band. The piano player is one of the best in Vegas." Kirk shook his head. "I'm not much of a singer, Mr. Caruso. I'll leave that to the professionals." Caruso looked disappointed, but didn't push. "Of course, Mr. Douglas. Enjoy your evening." Kirk went back to his drink. The band was playing soft jazz. The piano player was good, really good. An older black man with gray hair and elegant hands that moved across the keys like water flowing over stones. Kirk found himself watching the pianist. There was something in the way he played, not just technical skill, soul, the kind of depth that only comes from a lifetime of experience. Between sets, Kirk flagged down a waitress. "Who's the piano player?" The waitress smiled. "That's Henry Wallace. He's been here almost 30 years, since before Mr. Caruso bought the place. He's a legend." Kirk nodded. "He's incredible." The waitress's smile faded slightly. "Yeah." "It's a shame about what happened." "What do you mean?" She hesitated, looking around to make sure no one was listening. "Mr. Caruso fired him tonight, after 30 years, just like that." Kirk's eyes narrowed. "Why?" The waitress shrugged. "Henry made a mistake during a song earlier. Missed a few notes. Mr. Caruso was entertaining some investors, and he was embarrassed. So he fired Henry on the spot. Told him to finish the night and never come back." Kirk felt something cold settle in his stomach. After 30 years? The waitress nodded sadly. "Henry's got nowhere else to go. He's 68 years old. His whole life is this club. But Mr. Caruso doesn't care. He said Henry was making him look bad." Kirk thanked the waitress and sat back in his seat. He watched Henry Wallace play the next set. The old man's face showed nothing. No anger. No sadness, just the quiet dignity of a professional doing his job, even as his world crumbled around him. Kirk thought about what he had seen in Hollywood, the way the industry chewed people up and spit them out, the way loyalty meant nothing when money was on the line, the way old men who had given everything could be discarded like broken equipment. Something shifted in Kirk's chest. He stood up and walked toward the stage. The club fell quiet as Kirk Douglas approached the bandstand. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Cameras wouldn't dare flash in a place like this, but everyone was watching. Kirk stepped up onto the small stage and walked to the microphone. The band stopped playing. Henry Wallace looked up from his piano, confused. Vincent Caruso was already rushing toward the stage, his face a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "Mr. Douglas," Caruso said, his voice carrying across the silent room. "What an unexpected pleasure. Are you going to sing for us after all?" Kirk looked at Caruso. Then he looked at Henry Wallace. Then he looked out at the crowd of wealthy, powerful people who had come to the Starlight Lounge to feel important. "No," Kirk said into the microphone. "I'm not going to sing," the crowd murmured. Caruso's smile flickered. Kirk continued. "I'm going to tell you a story instead. A story about this club, about the man sitting at that piano." Caruso's face went pale. "Mr. Douglas, perhaps this isn't the best." Kirk ignored him. "That man's name is Henry Wallace. He's been playing piano at this club for 30 years. 30 years. That's longer than most marriages, longer than most careers. He's played for presidents and movie stars and countless couples celebrating anniversaries and birthdays and first dates." Kirk's voice grew harder. "Tonight, Henry Wallace was fired. After 30 years of service, he was fired because he missed a few notes during a song, because the owner of this club was embarrassed in front of some investors." The crowd was dead silent. Caruso was frozen in place. Kirk pointed at Henry, who sat at the piano with tears forming in his eyes. "Look at him. Look at this man who has given 3 decades of his life to this place, who has played through arthritis and grief and exhaustion, who has never missed a night, never complained, never asked for anything except the chance to do what he loves." Kirk turned to face Caruso directly. "And you fired him, like he was nothing. Like 30 years of loyalty could be erased by one bad song." Caruso found his voice. "Mr. Douglas, this is a private business matter. I don't think it's not private anymore." Kirk's voice was steel. "I'm making it public. Everyone in this room is going to know what kind of man you are, Vincent. The kind of man who throws away loyalty like garbage. The kind of man who values his ego more than a human being's dignity." Kirk looked back at the crowd. "I've been in Hollywood for 15 years. I've seen a lot of ugly things. But this, right here, is one of the ugliest. A man who gave everything being told he's worth nothing." Kirk walked over to the piano and stood next to Henry Wallace. "Henry," Kirk said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I want you to know something. You're not nothing. You're an artist. What you do matters. And if this man doesn't want you, that's his loss." Henry looked up at Kirk, tears streaming down his face. He tried to speak, but couldn't. Kirk turned back to the crowd. "I'm going to make a prediction. In 10 years, nobody will remember Vincent Caruso or his little club, but people will remember Henry Wallace. Because talent lasts, dignity lasts, character lasts." Kirk looked at Caruso one final time. "And cruelty gets forgotten, just like the men who practice it." Kirk stepped down from the stage and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted for him in stunned silence. Before he reached the door, a voice stopped him. "Mr. Douglas." Kirk turned. Vincent Caruso was standing in the middle of the club, his face red, his hands shaking. But he wasn't angry. He looked defeated. "Henry keeps his job," Caruso said quietly. "I was wrong." Kirk nodded. "Yes, you were." He walked out into the Las Vegas night. The story of what happened at the Starlight Lounge spread through Vegas within hours. By the next morning, it was the talk of the Strip. Kirk Douglas had publicly humiliated one of the most connected club owners in town to defend a piano player nobody had ever heard of. Some people thought Kirk was crazy. Others thought he was a hero. Kirk didn't care what anyone thought. He had done what was right. Henry Wallace continued playing at the Starlight Lounge for another 12 years. He retired in 1971 at the age of 80, and was given a farewell party that drew musicians from all over the country. Vincent Caruso sold the club in 1965. He never quite recovered from that night. His reputation as a cruel boss followed him everywhere. Kirk Douglas's prediction had come true. Nobody remembered Vincent Caruso, but they remembered Henry Wallace. 40 years after that night, in 1999, a music journalist was writing a book about the golden age of Las Vegas jazz. He tracked down Henry Wallace, now 98 years old and living in a nursing home in Henderson. The journalist asked Henry about the highlights of his career. Henry smiled, his hands too weak now to play, but his mind still sharp. The highlight? That's easy. The night Kirk Douglas saved my life. The journalist asked what he meant. Henry's eyes grew distant. I was going to kill myself that night. After Mr. Caruso fired me, I had decided. I was 68 years old. I had nothing. No family, no savings. Just that piano. And they were taking it away from me. Henry took a shaky breath. I had a plan. Finish the last set. Go home. End it. That was my plan. He looked at the journalist, and then Kirk Douglas walked onto that stage. He didn't know me. He didn't owe me anything, but he stood up there in front of everyone and said, I mattered. He said my 30 years meant something. He said I was an artist. Tears rolled down Henry's weathered face. Nobody had ever said that to me before. Not like that. Not in front of everyone. And in that moment, I realized that maybe my life wasn't over. Maybe there was still something worth living for. Henry wiped his eyes. I played for 12 more years after that night. 12 of the best years of my life. I got to train young musicians. I got to play at my own retirement party. I got to live. He looked at the journalist with fierce intensity. Kirk Douglas gave me that. With 3 minutes on a stage, he gave me 12 years. He gave me a reason to keep going. Henry smiled. That's what courage looks like. Not the kind in movies, the real kind. The kind that saves lives. When Kirk Douglas died on February 5th, 2020, Henry Wallace had been gone for 15 years. But his story lived on. The nursing home where Henry spent his final years had a plaque in the lobby. It read, "In memory of Henry Wallace, who taught us that every person deserves dignity, and in honor of Kirk Douglas, who reminded us to stand up and say so." And sometimes, if you look closely at the old photographs from Hollywood's golden age, you can still see it. Not the fame, not the awards, but the look in a man's eyes when he chose principle over comfort. Kirk Douglas played tough guys on screen, but off-screen, he was tougher. In an industry built on pretending, his courage was the only real thing that lasted. Is there a moment in your life where you wish someone had stood up for you? Or a moment where you stood up for someone else? Hollywood has many secrets, but these are the ones worth telling. If you want to know the real stories, the ones they didn't put in the magazines, you're in the right place. We are peeling back the curtain on the man who never bent. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Kirk Douglas, the man who never bent. We are just getting started. There are stories about Bert, about Spartacus, and about the moments that defined a legend. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Leave a comment below. What would you have done in Kirk's position? I'll see you in the next video. Never bend.